Oh, you're muted.
Okay, there you go. Good.
Good to go.
Okay, great. Okay, so I'm Pam Lang. I'm an assistant professor. I teach developmental reading, writing, English, and contemporary literature and social justice here at SUNY Niagara, formerly NCCC. We're kind of both now. We rebranded in February of this year. So I applied for a SUNY OER grant a year ago, May, to create an integrated reading and writing course. And I'm just going to kind of walk you through our process and what we created and why we created it. And feel free to, ask any questions. So here goes. Okay, so we teach independent, standalone foundation writing, foundation reading, and then we also have the accelerated learning program, which is the one out of Baltimore Community College that Peter Adams created, where you pair the foundation writing with an English 101 course. So we noticed that our pass rate for the standalone reading and writing foundation courses were pretty abysmal, as you can see. And I just have data from the last fall and spring. So we have, less than 40% that will pass the standalone reading foundations and the standalone writing workshop. So even with pairing it with the English 101, we have a 56% pass rate. So we created the integrated reading and writing. We called it English 088. And in the spring, we just piloted it. It has an enrollment of 10. We had 8 students who enrolled, and we saw that 38 of them passed the English 088 course paired with the English 101 course. So even that is a better percentage, than most of our standalone. I mean, the only one that was higher was the spring 2024. So it is, the integrated reading and writing is exceeding our expectations with students passing, rather than the standalone writing workshop class. So just in graph form, this is the standalone courses for the spring. So we have, here is the reading standalone with a 40% pass rate. And then we have our writing, which had a 23% pass rate. And then this is our integrated reading and writing, which is very close to our standalone. So, it's trending in the right direction, right? So, so this fall we have, so this fall we have 50 students enrolled in the integrated reading and writing paired with the English 101 and the ALP co-rec course. And then we have over 60 in standalone integrated reading and writing. So we're hoping that our pass rates and completion rates are comparable to what they were with our spring pilot program. So our goals for the SUNY grant were, of course, saving money for students. We created an integrated reading and writing workbook that is an OER resource. So that alone saved over $300, more than $300 in textbook costs for our students if they had to take the English, the reading, and then the English 101. So now it's all, the English, the integrated reading and writing just has one workbook that integrates reading and writing strategies and techniques. And it's loaded into their Brightspace course, so they have it on day one. We have a Wolfpack here, so this costs them nothing. We're really hoping that it will increase their student learning and knowledge. We have some feedback that I'll show you a little later that they were impressed with it, and their perception was that it did help them. Our completion rates were at 38%, so we're hoping that, it will continue to grow. I've noticed that they're more engaged, they have better attitudes if they have access to the materials from home, from their computers. I have students who take the course on iPads, iPhones, regular computers, Chromebooks, which are awful. So, it's really helped them stay engaged in the course, right? And of course, the accessibility of the materials has been checked by our online learning people as well as our librarians. So that has helped reach everyone. And then the last thing that was our goal was that we really needed to train more faculty, right? So they were able to have an electronic copy of the integrated reading and writing workbook as well as a printed copy that I provided for them. So some impacts, right? So we had the pilot course, the integrated reading and writing, the English 088, that was paired with English 101. So this removed one semester of English courses because typically students would take the foundation reading and writing in one semester, and then the next semester they would take the 4-credit English 101, the composition writing 1 class. We also have the added benefit of an embedded reading and writing tutor. I teach in a classroom that's connected to a computer lab where the reading and writing tutor meets with the students during class, after class, and between class to go over certain things that they may not understand about the course. He also teaches the integrated reading and writing course, and we share assignments, so it's great. The one great thing about the ALP model, of course, that everybody knows is that, the same faculty members. So this semester we have three different faculty members who teach the English 101 first, and then they meet with the integrated reading and writing students afterwards for the next class session. So they are, they know what they're doing. The students have a rapport with that same faculty member. And the one thing that I try to do in my classes, and I've been training the English faculty to do this as well, is that you really have to create this community of learners, right? So these integrated reading and writing students, we talk about how they were placed into the course. We talked about, the challenges, the obstacles that they face. We talk about, effective things that may, hinder them, right? So we go over grit and growth mindset, and we talk about how to be a learner, how to be an academic college student, the language that's involved in that. And we really, develop proven effective student habits, how to take notes, how to create an essay, how to ask for help, to go to the tutoring center, to meet with a writing coach, even navigating the technology problems, because we have so many students who have done Google Docs all their life, and then we do Word here. We're totally Office 365. So, it's just kind of, hoping that supportive network of faculty, students, success coaches, tutors will, cause them to stay and be successful, in these courses, and of course, to get their degree. And so from the pilot course in the spring, we have a couple student testimonials. And this is taken right from, their essays that they had to write at the end that asked them to reflect on these 2 courses together. So taking these English courses has helped me, it should be as a reader, but obviously it's their writing, I couldn't change it, a reader, writer, and a student, right? So this student was a person of color. This is, I think, her 2nd or 3rd time that she came back to college, and she was so happy to get the extra support. Our next one is, as a result of both courses, I learned that I can read and write in English more confidently and fluently. This is actually a student who English is his 3rd or 4th language. He actually emigrated from Russia. He has family in Ukraine when he, saw what was happening with the war there. So, and he is actually in culinary school here because he, yeah. I can't remember the reason, but yeah, so I mean, he was wonderful, right? But he was so full of self-doubt because, just everything that he experienced. So this really helped him develop that confidence, and, he still is communicating with the students that he met in this class, right? So our placement policy, we decided that we had to streamline that as well. We had 2 placement policy tests. So we had a reading test, and then we had a writing test. So we combined that into one. So it's more efficient. There's less stress on the testing center. It's easier to have the incoming students come in and just take one placement test, which, was the case that, they would take one and then, 3, 4 weeks later, they would find time to take the other one. So now they just come in, they take one. It just has streamlined the process so much better. We trained 4 faculty to teach for this semester, and I'm in the process of setting up trainings for teaching it in the spring and in the fall. And last impacts is that we created and compiled an integrated reading and writing workbook. It's housed in Brightspace for the students to access and for the faculty to access. And also it's in the SUNY OER repository that can be accessed through our library. And I'll have a link for that later on in the slides. Questions yet? No, good, okay. So I'll keep going. So this, through IR, institutional research, we had them create a focus group, a survey. They surveyed the students at the beginning of the semester and then at the end of the semester. These are some of the answers from the end of the semester. So their perception on the combined courses together, over half, actually over 50, over 60, over 70, felt that it would reduce the cost, help their learning experience easier, made them want to complete the course, graduate from college, earn a better grade. And out of the 8, I only had 3 that finished, typical foundation course. I had 1 A, 1 B, 1 C. So we were very happy with that, right? So no D's, C's transfer. And then, with regard to the OER source material, right? So they felt that they learned better with the OER, that it was more accessible for them, that it helped their learning, and that it helped them engage because they could access the material anytime. I was getting less emails of, what do we do in class today, right? Which I'm sure we all appreciate getting those emails. So this might be a little bit hard to read, but these were our SLOs. And so our first essay was on motivation, what motivates you. I just had 1 student who did not submit the essay out of the 8. The next one, we had an article from our Buffalo News that they were going to evaluate, take a stand and analyze a writing assignment. And this was actually by week 11. So we only had 3 students and all of them exceeded. And then revision, of course, I only had 1 student who failed to revise their essay. And then our next essay was comparing 2 readings. And of course, we only had 3 students, but they met or exceeded the standard. And then the last one is evaluating their strengths as a reader and writer. And of course, the same, we had 3 that exceeded it. And then the 5 out of the 8 that were not assessed in the last 2, which is, something we're working on, right, to get the students to stay in the class. So lastly, is just the contents of the integrated reading and writing OER workbook. So we have, the first module that we talk about is, what motivates you to succeed, to learn, to stay in college, to be successful. We go over different, learning strategies. They're learning about themselves as students. What successes did you have in college if you were here before, in high school? And then, of course, we start talking about reading and note-taking strategies, how different approaches to taking notes, so that this will, be applicable in their other classes. And we're constantly mentioning, in your psych class, in your sociology class, in your bio class, this would work. This is a great note-taking strategy. This is how you read at an academic level. And then, of course, we go through vocabulary, grammar tips, different writing techniques, and then we get into the rhetorical strategies of cause and effect, compare and contrast, persuasive. And then we end with reading critically, bringing everything together in all the modules, and then the reflection at the end. So this LibGuide is part of my LibGuide and on our library, and anyone can access this integrated reading and writing workbook. We want to make it transparent. We wanted to have it to be a good source. It was created really with all these topics are culled from English faculty, adjunct English faculty, you know, everybody contributed from our English department, so that it's really all of ours. I just compiled it and put it together with the help of our librarian who proofread it, thank God. And, you know, so this is what we use for our integrated reading and writing workbook class, actually. So that's really all I have. I'm sorry it's so short, but you know, I didn't want to take up too much time. Does anybody have any questions? I have my email there. If you want me to send you the link to the integrated reading and writing workbook, I'd be happy to do that. Oh, actually, I just put this up. Questions, comments? All right. Wow, that was easy. Okay. Let me just stop sharing, however I do that.
Well, thank you very much.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I guess I talk too fast. How come I can't get it to stop sharing?
Is your toolbar hidden? Let me just stop the recording.